Before I even get started, let me mention something I forgot to mention last time. A couple of months ago, I brought up trying to organize some kind of meetup with some of the other channels in this area, and I haven't forgotten about it or given up on it. But the last 2 months have been kind of hectic for me, a lot of changes. As a matter of fact, they've gone by really fast for me, so I haven't really moved any closer to it. I'd still like to get together with some folks, but it might have to be put off until much further down the road. So I just wanted to throw that out there. This month, with Halloween coming up, I thought I'd bring up, I guess basically how I got into ghost hunting. I know a lot of different kinds of people breeze through here, and not everybody believes in ghosts, and that's fine. I don't do the paranormal research and ghost hunting to change anybody's mind. These are just my experiences, and if you don't believe them, then that's your prerogative. But if you have had your own experiences, even small ones, that have at least made you question something, you're more than welcome to share them in the comments. When I was a little kid, well, pretty much until I was in my early to mid-20s, there wasn't a lot of serious talk about ghosts or hauntings. There were a couple of movies and books. You know, the Amityville Horror, of course, was based on the story of the Lutz family. But there was just as much out there essentially calling them liars as there was supporting their story. And, well, point being, nothing about real paranormal experiences was ever taken seriously when I was a kid. It was all movie make-believe or mocked if it ever was presented as serious, so how we took these small signs was very different. The house I grew up in, we were pretty sure there was some kind of spirits there. The house was an old house, one of the oldest houses in the area. As I understand it, the house was built somewhere else and moved to this town. And when it was first put in place, it was probably just outside town. Of course, the town grew and engulfed it within the city limits. There was a smaller house right behind it that someone else lived in that was the same color as ours, white with red trim. But was considerably smaller. It wasn't until years later that it dawned on me that at one time they were likely together. You know, the smaller house was probably a guest house or maybe even a servant's quarters or something like that for the bigger house. But the house that we lived in had been there about 100 years at the time we moved in. Little things would happen there. You know, like my mother would get groceries and buy, you know, say 3 cans of corn, and they would put them in the cabinet, and the next time they went into the cabinet to get something, one of the cans of corn would be gone. Now my mother, my grandmother lived with us, and she grew up at a time money was severely tight. Now, she counted everything. You couldn't shift a penny in the house without her noticing and making note of it. So she would announce the missing can of corn. You know, where is this can? There was 3 cans of corn, now there's only 2. What happened to this other can of corn? Well, we'd go on, we'd go through the other 2 cans of corn, then when there was no corn left, the 3rd can would suddenly be back in the cabinet, where it was to begin with. And stuff like that happened all the time, with all kinds of different things. You know, canned goods, books. You know, something would be gone, and right before it was really needed, would reappear. That's what made us think it might be kids. I'm talking about spirits of kids. It was never anything aggressive, just little tricks like that. You know, otherwise there would be, you know, there were other little things that would happen once in a while. Something like, you know, I would hear my mother call my name. And when I answered, she said she didn't call me. You know, we always had cats and dogs when I was growing up, and sometimes at night it would be like you'd feel one of the cats jump up on the bed, and then there would be no cat there. Just little stuff like that now and then. Now, we lived in that house for over 10 years, and then we moved out of that house into another old house on the other side of town, and we were told it was the first big house ever built here. And again, when it was first built, it would have been well outside town. There were things going on there too, not nearly as often, but maybe a little darker. I can think of at least 3 different times I would wake up and see people standing in my bedroom in the middle of the night. My room was on a corner, and street lights were right outside, so my room was never totally dark. I just wake up and there would be somebody standing there. I'd turn a light on and they'd be gone. There was only once that what I saw was kind of disturbing. The other 2 times really wasn't much. It was just a girl, maybe a teenage girl, wearing a pink cap and glasses. That stands out to me for some reason. And it looked like she was just bracing her foot on a chair to tie her shoe or something like that. Another time, it actually looked like a friend of mine just standing at the foot of my bed, not even facing me, leaning against a wall. The third time, however, was a little different. There was a tall man standing near the door, about where the girl tying her shoe was, and he was looking right at me, smiling really big. And I mean a big, exaggerated smile. And I'm talking like 10 times creepier than the overly attached girlfriend meme kind of smile. Just looking right at me. That one was pretty scary. And again, I turned a light on. I had a lamp right next to my bed. I turned the light on, he'd be gone. Now, the other 2 were just kind of like, what the heck was that? Yeah. But I slept with the light on the rest of the night, after that last one. Outside of my own house, I guess the first experience I can remember having was when I was about 10 years old, and was actually in a church. My aunt used to clean the Methodist church here in town, and sometimes I would go with her and my cousin. And one day, me and my cousin were playing around, and we got separated somehow, and I was looking for him, and I went into the main part of the church where they have the services, and in one of the side rooms, one of the offices, a door was open, and I saw what looked like the tail of a blue cape with gold trim. And imagine if someone wearing a cape turned around quickly and the tail kind of swings out. That's basically what I saw. And I thought it was them doing something in there. I was like, what are they doing? And I took a step toward that door, and when I heard my aunt call my name outside, I went to the front door, and they were both at the car. They were getting ready to go. And I told them what I saw, and my aunt said, well, it's probably just the wind blowing the curtain. Now, at 10 years old, I accepted this, even though what I saw was blue and gold, and the curtains there were kind of beige. Also, for the wind to blow them out to the point of me seeing them through the doorway, they would have to be about 15 feet longer than they were, and the wind blowing much harder than it was that day. But still, I accepted it and moved on. But looking back, I'm kind of thinking, maybe I saw a little something there. Okay, I just realized I went on way too long about all those little things. But those are the kind of little things that kept happening. Flash forward to the 90s, and I saw a young boy walk past the doorway in a friend's house, and when we checked on it, there was nobody in that room. A lot of little things like that kept happening. And as I got older, I met, right around that time, I was meeting more people that were more open about their own experiences. And we started getting together and decided to go to some of the places around here that had a reputation for being haunted. And some of them paid off, some of them didn't. And there was one that paid off a little too much. I told that full story in What the Paranormal is My Ghost Story series, which I'll leave a link to in the upper right corner if you want to check that out. I'm the second story in that video, and I got to say it wasn't an easy story to tell because it was not a pleasant experience. But once we started getting evidence and seeing things that couldn't be explained, there was a desire to see and learn more. And for me, what really got me hooked was the idea that I might be able to help people. Not just living people that might have something in their house, but also the people who have passed and are either stuck here or waiting to pass on some kind of message to someone. If I can kind of help them. Of course, as we've done this more, it kind of makes me think of the movie, The Sixth Sense. Where, the kid says that some of them don't even know that they're dead. That I think that actually does happen. There are some spirits that they don't even realize that they're dead. Once shows like Ghost Hunters came along, it did make it a little easier to bring it up to people. And of course, YouTube, there's a ton of paranormal stuff on YouTube. Of course, there are still those that grate the idea with a smirk or a smarmy comment. And as I said, if someone doesn't believe in it, that's fine. But if you have another explanation for why, when I am standing in a house just a few feet away from another man, and we both hear a little girl say something in between us, and there isn't even a little girl in the house, I would love to hear that explanation. If you can explain why a recorder picks up a voice in a room when I know for a fact nobody was in that room, I would love to hear that explanation. I have just seen and heard too many things over the years to write things off. Are they ghosts? Well, I believe they are. If there is another answer, I would like to know that answer. Okay, that didn't go exactly the way I planned. Imagine that. But I spent a lot more time talking about the little stuff that happened as I was growing up. I kind of got off on that tangent, but did that more than I expected. But that's fine. Sometimes it's the little stuff that people can really relate to when it comes to things like this. So again, if you have your own experiences, feel free to share them. Well, to close this out, I wanted to go back to my first trip to a place called Hill House Manor in Gainesville, Texas. I actually went back there this last Friday with What the Paranormal as this is going out. Unfortunately, I won't have a regular video for that trip because I was having so many equipment problems. I just put my stuff away. But our outtake this month is from the first trip. When we first got there, we had to wait for the owners to get there with the key. And that was taking a lot more time than we expected, so we managed to entertain ourselves. And if you ever wonder what ghost hunters do to pass the time, this might be a good example. Or maybe just an example of what we do to pass the time. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the ride. I hope you enjoyed the story, or the little mini stories, however you want to put it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, not necessarily in that order. And I will see you next time. It's amazing what you can find to entertain yourself when you're waiting for the person with the house keys.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Da 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 da. We're doing two different beats.
Chicken dance.
No, I'm not the only one doing it.
Oh, I can do that one-handed.
It don't even look like I'm twisting. It just looks like I'm moving my legs from side. Look.
It looks like, you know what that reminds me of, Mama? Mama, look at me.
Wait, watch me whip.
No, Mama. Watch me whip. No, watch me. I can't go down.
Watch me.
Oh, the dancing. I feel like running a marathon is what I feel like. Okay. I hope they get here soon.
Yeah, me too.